I feel like we have a lot of learning to do about sovereignty in our culture right now because we're not really understanding the sovereignty of other people. It's very clear to me in the issue of Standing Rock, where we have water protectors who are Native Americans who have had treaty rights broken for many, many, many years. And the place that I'm living currently, there's a lot of frustration that the natives aren't following the law, that they're just not doing what the police want them to do and listening and being obedient. And what we're missing in this understanding of how the law works is that this is the law of the United States of America, not cosmic law, not divine law. Those things are very different. That sometimes they are in harmony, and there are many things in which they are in harmony, and there's a lot of things that are out of harmony with divine law, with cosmic law right now. So those things are coming more to our awareness. 2 is that the Native Americans are a sovereign nation. They are their own entity. They exist by different laws because of who they are, because of what their history is and what their customs are, that they are a sovereign nation. And yet they are not being honored in this confrontation at all. They have not been treated like a sovereign nation. They have been treated like they are to be subservient to the dominant power. Now, for me, as a woman who grew up in the Christian church and the Christian tradition, my understanding of sovereignty was that only God was sovereign and that we were not. And I inherited this kind of religious picture of life where I was to be subservient to a power outside of myself and to a power greater than myself. And instead of understanding how my being is also sovereign, that my space is sovereign, that all beings are created with an inherent sovereignty as they follow their own inner law and as they follow our own inner teacher. So I don't think that this is out of alignment with Christianity at all or other religions. I think it's just the ways in which we've been taught oftentimes has left us codependent on a religious structure or an establishment that works to play off of our fears and keep us in our lower natures rather than truly helping us to connect to our divine nature, which is what a religion that honors divine is really about, is to help really unleash and unlock that divine force within all of us. So how do we begin to work with our sovereignty? How do we begin to work with our power? And it begins by noticing throughout the week what is going on in that third chakra. So becoming very mindful of interactions and relationships where you feel that you're getting triggered in that third chakra and you're going to start to feel pulls at the core. Either you're going to encounter someone and they're going to be triggering to you in one way or another. Either you're going to feel like you're dominating them to try to control the situation because you're getting anxious about the unknowns of how another person might handle something, or you start to surrender your power and you feel that someone else is kind of ganging up on you and having power over you. So many of us have assumed one role or the other in our life and are used to either being more passive with our power and giving away our power to other people, or we're used to taking power from other people and being more dominant. And many of us have been trained in our schooling and in leadership classes and just in our culture that in order to be successful that we have to dominate other people and make other people fear us to be obedient to us. And this way of interacting with other people is coming to an end as we wake up and realize that this is not in the highest good of all people. This is the old programs of being a slave race, which humanity has been working its way out of since before the time of Egypt, since before the people of God made their way out of the desert to try to escape being slaves. Time and time again, we continue to give our power away to think that somebody else outside of ourselves is going to come in and save us, that some other leader or some president or whatever is going to have all the answers for us, and then we find ourselves living again like slaves and having less freedom and less power and less dignity are an inalienable right of a human being to have our own sovereignty, because each of us is a reflection of the divine. So we can think about that original life force as a beautiful bright light that broke up into all of these millions and millions of little tiny pieces, and each of those lights lives in us, and each of us is a reflection of the divine. So when we find ourselves in relationships where we are dominating, controlling somebody else, or giving our power away and surrendering our power, surrendering our dignity, then we are living out of balance with cosmic law. According to cosmic law, all beings are sovereign. This means that masculine and feminine must return to the sacred balance. So we've been living in patriarchal structures for thousands and thousands of years, where many of us were taught, no matter what religion we are from, the dominant religions on planet Earth worship a male god. In the earliest cultures of the human race, the goddess was present. The understanding of the goddess as a ruler was prevalent in the human consciousness. And those of us who are waking up to our dream life and who are doing our inner work are finding within us experiences of the goddess returning. The goddess is emerging, and we're going through one of those cycles where we are coming back into the balance as we are remembering what was happening in the golden age of humanity, a long, long, long time before we fell, before we forgot. And what we're seeing now is kind of the ending of that patriarchal structure, where we have honored and lifted up masculine energies, masculine ideas of using power over to dominate the earth, to dominate other people, and to create and to be living in this hierarchical slave-like structure. Those systems and structures are beginning to fall. As we understand the goddess cultures, we know too, based on history, that no, they weren't perfect, and that probably patriarchy was a pendulum swing, overcorrecting from an imbalance of power that began with the feminine having too much power over the masculine, of dominating the masculine, of disrespecting what masculine energy was. And so that patriarchy came to balance that out, because it experienced a wrong at the expression of the goddess, at a human race, at women who took things too far. So we can all wake up and admit that, yes, we've all played a part in using power inappropriately, whether we've surrendered too much of it or whether we've dominated other people. This is not about men being wrong and women being right. This is about energy, and this is about honoring the yin and the yang that exists within all of creation. We're going to be able to help shift the energy grids around us to empower others to either let go of controlling too much, because we know that gets exhausting and it's not good for anybody, and to help raise up and empower those who have been too shy to step into their power, to see that, yes, if we all do this together, there is enough resources, there is enough gifts, there is enough passion, because the divine is present within each and every one of us. So when we begin to see all of life as sacred, we can clearly see those systems and programs that are at work to destroy the life force. We can see them playing out within ourselves is where we begin. What are the ways in which I am harming my own life force as I surrender my power and give it away to somebody else? Or what are the ways in which I am harming other people's life forces as I dominate and play a role that is not helping them to grow and to thrive and to be their best selves? So every day, let us declare our sovereignty as we remember that we are shining beings that come from the limbs of the One Most High. And we commit to living in the sacred balance, to living in shared power with others, of bringing our gifts and our voice into the world, and of co-creating a world for the highest good of all beings. So I truly believe that even as we're going through these stressful times in our country, and as people are holding on to things that they know or holding on to what's familiar in order to comfort themselves, that cultivating a relationship with the unknown is actually the safest way through, because it keeps us in a space of wonder, it keeps us in a space of respect for other sovereign beings and other sovereign nations, and it helps us to really honor our own uniqueness and to see our unique gifts. And this is a journey that is going to require our understanding of this concept of sovereignty. We all have a variety of gifts to use to help humanity at this time. I keep thinking about the image in the Bible that talks about how some of us are hands, some of us are eyes, some are head, some are feet. We all have different gifts to use, but humanity itself is one body. We belong to one source of life that is looking to find healing and wholeness. One of my favorite passages in the Bible is the very last verses in Revelation, where it talks about how at the end of times, which some people are talking about how this may be the end of times, but I also know that endings are actually just new beginnings. And in the book of Revelation, it says that in the end of time, people from every single nation will gather together at the tree of life, and there will be enough food to feed everyone, and that the leaves of the tree of life will be used for the healing of the nations. So we have this beautiful picture of diversity and of all people from all tribes, from every nation coming together to be healed. So may we take this journey in discovering our sovereignty as a celebration of our diversity, as we really listen and anchor into our intuition, honoring our feelings, honoring our gifts, staying connected to who we are, to feel safe and grounded and rooted in the essence of who we are, in the light that lives within us, and the way in which the life force wants to express itself through us. How does the divine want to flower within me? How does the divine shine through me? What are the ways in which my great joy meets the world's great need? It's not going to be the exact same way as yours is. And that's beautiful and good. And that's why we are made to be different, because we each have a different mission while we are here. So this is about really honoring that unique expression, and that we are stronger together as humans when we celebrate our differences, as opposed to when we all try to be exactly the same and fit in because we're afraid. So I want to encourage you at this time that anything that you can do to really celebrate your uniqueness, to celebrate your spontaneity, to celebrate your humanity, to celebrate your creativity, use your fire to burn away all of the structures of fear that are really focusing on keeping everybody conformed and to keep everybody the same because we're afraid and we want to do something familiar that we know, to see that that is actually a more fragile structure that's not going to last over time. When we root into the essence of our being and when we honor the fire that lives within, we're going to create a structure that is the most stable, because it's a divine structure. It's a holy structure. It's a cosmic structure that is in line with cosmic law and how life works in all dimensions. So this is quite a journey that we have, but we are moving into our power again as we remember who we are and what we were created to do. Thank you for going on this courageous journey with me, and I wish you many blessings this week as you make your way into the world as a sovereign being. Namaste.